Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. All right, guys, back here to answer your questions at the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. As always, reach out to me, bishopshomegrown@gmail.com, my social media, and or the YouTube comments below, and I will do my best to answer your questions about the art of distillation. So, of course, we've got the 2025 Practical Distiller's Almanac, the physical copies, including extras, because I bought extras this time, and I'll continue to buy extras to keep on hand for you guys. I know some of you guys are always hesitant to order unless I have the physical copy in hand, and I understand that completely. I will have copies of that on hand as soon as they get here. It should be this week. They will go out to you as soon as we get them and I get them signed, etc. This probably will be the last book that I have delivered to me that I deliver to you guys to sign, because it does get to be a little bit of a hassle, especially when companies run behind and stuff like that, getting those books out to you guys. And I want you guys to be able to get this stuff and use it when you want it, right? None of us likes waiting on something to be shipped to us. And, unfortunately, sometimes I'm at the mercy of the company printing to get those books to me and then get them out to you. So long and short of it is, Practical Distiller's Almanac 2025, we will have physical copies on hand this week going into next week, and they will start shipping out physically to you guys. Of course, you guys this year, when you bought the Almanac, you also got the digital copy, which you can use immediately, which is awesome. The 2026 Almanac is nearly finished. I plan on having that in print and ready to ship to people in September of this year, and that will be the case going forward, much like the Old Farmer's Almanac or the Farmer's Almanac, etc. So thank you guys for supporting me and for buying those almanacs. It means the world to me. It's something I really love, and really when I think about what I'm trying to do with the art of distillation, what I'm trying to do with One Piece at a Time, what I'm trying to do with If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, and with the books in general, the Practical Distiller's Almanac is very much a thing that I see as a legacy thing for me, more so than anything else that I work on, truthfully. That's something that could continue on well into the future, even long after I'm gone one day. So I love seeing it do well. I love that you guys appreciate it and enjoy it. And we'll keep them coming. So anyways, let's get into some questions here from Randy. So, hey, Alan, thanks so much for answering my long-winded questions about sealing up a barrel and my Solera system recently. Before I get to my question about saponification, I wanted to mention that I think I have come up with a solution to help seal up my trouble barrel with barrel candy. As you had mentioned, filling the barrel with something that has a high sugar content in it to produce more barrel candy. My solution is to brew a strong Scotch ale, which has an ABV around 8 to 9%. Scotch ales are fairly sweet with very little hops, just enough for some bitterness to balance the sweetness, and has no hop aroma due to low hop addition, hop variety, and extended boil times that drive off any hop aroma that might have existed. This is important for later for what I might end up doing with the ale. After several months in the barrel, which should seal up the barrel with lots of barrel candy. If the beer is still good, I'll keg, carbonate, and drink. If it's too oxidized or picks up too much wood flavor from the barrel, I'll simply distill it and blend it in with my other whiskeys. Shouldn't need to worry much about hop flavor or aroma coming through, since there really isn't any in this style of beer. Either way, it should be a win-win proposition. Thanks again for your recommendation. I think that's a fantastic idea. I think you're right on the mark there, man. Great choice, too, for sure. So keep us updated on that and let us know how it turns out. Now, my question about saponification. I recently proofed down about 4 gallons in my latest spirit run of my all malt double pot distilled whiskey, from 150 proof down to 110 before going into a barrel with a final volume of over 5 gallons once proofed down. The spirit is an all malt whiskey with a grain bill of 85% barley malt, 10% oat malt, and 5% rye malt. I thought I was being careful not to proof it down too quickly after watching one of your talking head videos concerning saponification. I proofed it down over a 2-day period by slowly adding only 16 ounces of moderately hard water at a time, with at least 3-hour intervals in between, with lots of stirring during and in between additions, using water I produce from RO water, adding my own salts, water profile and ppm of 35, calcium 6, magnesium 20, Na 72 chlorides, 55 sulfites, and no carbonates. You brewers really get into your water. I'll give you guys that for sure. There ain't no doubt about it. Something I should know more about. I'm accustomed to doing this as a brewer, as the water profile has a huge effect when making beers. Anyways, as I'm slowly adding the final pint of water to the spirit, again with lots of stirring, I notice that the spirit is starting to look slightly cloudy. when it had been crystal clear before. I didn't notice it until adding the last pint. I was afraid that this was saponification, but not sure, hoping it just some minerals precipitating out of solution. Looking into the stainless steel pot where I was proofing down the spirit with a flashlight, I could see little tiny specks floating throughout the spirit. After waiting a couple hours and with more stirring, it seemed like the specks may have gotten smaller, but no less cloudy. After setting overnight, the spirit looked much less cloudy, and there was a precipitate at the bottom of the pot, which caused me to think that it was some minerals that had precipitated out once I had reached a certain threshold as I was proofing down. I didn't notice any soapy taste or smell in the spirit, although it did seem as though the spirit was less aromatic than before. Do you think there is any cause for concern? Also, is there any way to prevent this in the future? Should I even worry about it? Finally, I'm assuming I should decant or rack the clear spirit off the precipitate before it goes into the barrel. Thanks again for answering all of our quirky but no less important questions. Like they say, the devil's in the details. Your friend Randy. Great question. So, usually, if you're sitting around 110, you probably haven't saponified, although the cloudiness makes me think that it's a possibility, and the dropping out of minerals can be associated with saponification as well, but it is also associated with just minerals in the water. Even if you did saponify because it cleared overnight, you didn't saponify it very much at all. And honestly, saponification is not that big of an issue when you're going into a barrel for extended maturation. It's more of an issue for coming out of the barrel to go into the bottle or doing a white spirit. You don't want saponification at all whatsoever. Any minerals in the water, especially if there's hard water, you will precipitate those out when you're proofing down regardless, and that can explain the cloudiness. The easy way to know if you're saponifying or not is that if there is as you're proofing down, if there is a noticeable increase in the temperature of the distillate that the water is being added to while you're proofing down, you're getting saponification. That's that chemical reaction, right? Yeah. So keep an eye on your temperatures as you're proofing down. You'll know whether or not saponification is happening. If your temperature starts to climb pretty rapidly, you're definitely getting that interaction, that chemistry is happening there. As far as that precipitate, as long as you are not concerned that there's iron in your water, I wouldn't worry about it. Minerals in the water are not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I've come to absolutely despise RO water with a passion. Yes, it has its place for sure. I am not using RO water at Patoka Lake. I'm using water that has only been cleaned of chlorine and fluoride. And there are reasons for that I will get into down the road that I think I've touched on in other videos too. But those minerals are actually a part of the terroir of where you're at and what you're doing, right? It's a part of your process. So unless there's any iron or something like that in there that you're really worried about, I wouldn't worry about straining it off there, especially if you're going to go into a barrel for any amount of time for maturation. It's not going to hurt anything whatsoever. Like I said, though, keep an eye on those temperatures. You'll know if you're saponifying because your temperature of your distillate will start to go up pretty substantially, pretty quickly. And you definitely smell and taste soap. And even if you do saponify a little bit before you go into a barrel, it shouldn't be any big deal. At 110 proof, even with single malt being a little more oily, you shouldn't get that much saponification. You should be okay there. But definitely on your way out of that barrel, or if you're doing a white spirit, keep an eye on that for sure. But great questions again, and please keep them coming as you have them. So let's see what else we got here. So this is from Terry. So, excuse me, I went up to the mountains a couple weeks ago to see when we were going to do another run. On the last run, I collected some agave leaves to bring to my house to propagate yeast, but I foolishly put it in the freezer instead of the refrigerator. I guess I was just too tired. Last trip, I collected some agave that had been sitting there for 5 months in a pile. I brought it home and threw it in with some DME, and the first batch, it sucked it down to 1.0, very little yeast in it. I poured that into another container with fresh DME this time. I've got about 3/16 of an inch of yeast floating on the bottom. I want to send you some yeast. I was wondering if you think I should just pour it over the spent agave I had and let it dry on that, or should I just set it out to dehydrate and scrape it up and send you that? Oh, that's awesome. Reread some of the posts I sent you, so sorry about my attitude. I lost too many friends to cigarettes. Listen, I understand entirely. To be fair, I have been trying to lay off smoking, and I've moved over these nicotine pouches, which are great, except when I'm recording a video like this, because I feel like a chipmunk with something in my cheeks, and I don't like it very much, but I'm working on it. I'm trying really hard. I'm just getting over with a complete new knee. As soon as I get over this pain, I'll have a zillion questions to send you. I'll send you pictures of my still and what I'm going for. Quick question, though. Do you think it's worth buying stainless steel hose to pull off vapors off the top of my still before it hits a condenser? My next trip up to the state to see my doctor, I want to bring some of my Recilia that I helped make and some Recilia that my mentor made. He likes it around 100, but I like it 125 proof. Need an address, and is there a best way to mail it? Terry. My ears jump when I hear you have a question from Terry. One love, live it. Terry, that's awesome. I would love to have some of that yeast. I'd love to try that Recilia as well. Probably not saying that word right. I do apologize if I'm not. As far as the yeast goes, so let me go back up here to where you said what you're going to do. What do you think? I should just pour it over the spent agave I had and let it dry on that? I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, the spent agave and let it dry on that. I think that would be just fine and work out really well. That'd be a nice little menstruum to work off of for sure, and really hold on to as much of that terroir and that native yeast as what we possibly can. I will also email you my address here shortly, and I really appreciate you sharing that yeast with me. That's pretty damn cool, man. I'm really, really excited about that and see what I can do with that for sure. Your question, though, do you think it's worth buying stainless steel hose to pull vapors off the top of my still before it hits a condenser? I would say that if you have a good level condenser, whether it's a worm or it is a shell and tube or Lebesgue, I wouldn't probably worry about it too much, especially on a small scale. You're going to blow all that stuff out there pretty easily. It's going to be cleaned out really nicely by your heads, etc., and shouldn't be a problem. I know a lot of people do blow vapor out to the atmosphere, and there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. The old timers would do a lot of that where they would keep the still stirred up until they saw that it was boiling, A, so they didn't scorch anything, and B, so they'd lose a little bit of the foreshots, etc. But I think if you have a good condenser that's good and level, where you don't have any pooling or anything like that, I don't think you got anything to worry about. And even then, with pooling on a small still, it's going to be such a small amount of smearing of anything that I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think you'd be doing just fine. But man, I really do appreciate that yeast. I really do appreciate these questions. Thank you guys, and please keep them coming. I appreciate you guys more than you guys know. I really do. So, and I appreciate all the support for the Distiller's Almanac and all that stuff too. Be sure to get your copy over at thealchemistcabinet.com at the warehouse, and keep the questions coming, guys. And I will continue to work on quitting smoking, one piece at a time. Love y'all. Later.